And we are live. What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to episode 5 of Vig Villain, or of Press Pause with Vig Villain. I know we're going to be tuning in on VOD. I do have a few people watching there. No one live yet, but that's okay. I know these things kind of come in pretty quick. But yeah, man, appreciate you guys checking this out when you do. Not sure I can ask for anything else. I know I'm a very small new channel, so I appreciate that. I know it's Easter Sunday. Almost didn't stream. Was doing some things with the family, but thought I'd pop on because there's been so much news this week that I had to get on and get it out of the way, or we were just gonna lose it downstream. A lot I feel like has kind of gone on that is interesting to me this week. We've seen a lot of sort of company news coming out, as well as some pretty cool smaller showcases. ID at Xbox did a Twitch stream where they showcased some of the more indie developers they're looking at, including some of the kind of larger indies that almost kind of like I feel like stretch the idea of indie, kind of like Benedict Fox, which I talked about last week. Very, very excited for. But yeah, let's kind of get into it. First things first, what I've been playing this week. As usual, I am a squirrel running from place to place, just like shiny. But I've been playing a lot. As you can see on the screen here, we've got Dredge. This was a game I sort of sat on. I wasn't sure I was going to pick up. I didn't know. It looked like interesting, but I wasn't sure. I ended up picking it up because it is a nice price, right? It's $24.99, I believe, and I think the deluxe edition, which gives you like a special key, is like $2 or $3 more. Like it's not an expensive game. It's sub 30. I'm having a blast. I got sucked in hardcore, and I'm loving it. And it's kind of happy accident because last week I talked about I wanted to play Quantum Break because I saw it was leaving Game Pass. I was under the impression Quantum Break was leaving Game Pass on like the 15th or at the end of the month. It left way sooner than that. So I got like 2-3 hours into Quantum Break. And I was planning on maybe showing that gameplay here. But they took it off the service on like when I booted it up on the 9th to start up playing again. It was gone, unavailable. Kid couldn't even purchase it to kind of finish. So I picked this game. All right, I think we're back. There we go. Sorry for the technical difficulty. I'll have to trim that out. But yeah, we're back. So couldn't keep going with Quantum Break. Ended up picking Dredge up, and I'm loving it. It's such an interesting game. It's something a little bit different than what I would normally play. Usually with indies, I'm more attracted to either kind of like platformer or hack and slash, sort of fast-paced games, things like Dead Cells or like Hades, which again, that's kind of stretches indies, but like, roguelikes. I also pick up some turn-based stuff. I was playing Chained Echoes when that came out at the end of last year. Things like that usually catch my eye. This one is this sort of Lovecraftian fishing sim and or like a fishing game mixed with like resource management, and you're kind of having to you have to be very careful how you pack your boat with stuff. And whenever you're fishing at night, it gets very dangerous. Like there's something in the water. And I'm only a few hours in, but it's got this sort of, it's not scary, right? It's not like a horror fishing game. I think that's how they're billing it, but I would say it's more like, it's like creepy, right? That Lovecraftian vibe of like kind of spooky, but like I would say spoopy. It's like unsettling a little bit, like the vibe, right? The music, sort of the ambience, but really cool. Very, very, very enjoyable. Kind of addicting, like the loop, right? Of going out, trying to collect, you like dredge up old shipwrecks, right? For resources like lumber and metal scrap and things to upgrade your boat, as well as trade for different stuff at these different ports you come to. And then you're also looking for fish, and you can get regular fish, you can get mutated fish, which go for higher. And you're constantly doing these rewards, and almost kind of the way Sea of Thieves has those little missions of like, hey, collect this, collect these types of fish, or like take this package from this island to that island. That's kind of built into this in a much shorter kind of like way, where it's a super neat game. I'm definitely planning on finishing this. I checked how long to beat. I think it's like a like 8 hours if you're gonna like just beeline the story. I think they said completionist is like 17. I'm not normally a completionist, but I do have a feeling this is going to be a game I keep coming back to, so I'll probably get closer to like 15-20 hours in this, just because I get stuck in the loop of just fishing and like hoarding stuff up and not even trying to like go do the next little mission, little quest, or no, they call it something, but like it's like a quest essentially they're putting you on. And this game is fantastic. I highly recommend it. Low price there. I believe it's on Steam, Xbox, PS5 as well. I don't know if it's on Switch, but it might be. I don't think this is too taxing, but fantastic game. Can't say enough good things about it. Quantum Break, on the other hand, I'm very mixed. When it comes back, because they're saying it's coming back to the service, it was just a licensing issue, I'm assuming, with some of the music. I know it has licensed music in that game. So they're going to try and work that out and bring it back. Who knows when that'll be? There's not a date on it. And even though that game is coming back, I don't know if my attention will come back. Because as much as I love Alan Wake and really enjoyed Control, Quantum Break, off the rip, wasn't grabbing me in the same way. The story was interesting, but the combat was kind of too janky. And I understand that Quantum Break is like time travel, and the powers are all about time manipulation, whereas Control is more about telekinesis and that sort of thing. But you can see how they evolved the Quantum Break fighting and combat and gameplay into the combat gameplay in Control, and I think it's a massive leap forward for them in terms of that. Yeah, so, and then on top of that, there is so much cutscene and literal movie. Like, people talk about movie games, but Quantum Break is like a literal movie game. I got like an hour and a half in or an hour in, and suddenly there was a 30-minute episode of like a TV show about like the side characters. Like, I just put the controller down and watched a 30-minute episode, and it was like, you can skip it. It prompted like if I wanted to skip, but it felt like, why am I playing this if I'm going to skip this, right? Especially because Alan Wake and Control, it's all about story, and this story is interesting. I don't want to get into it because it's very spoilery, but it's not. I don't know. I feel like there's a balance that Remedy strikes that's very interesting, in that all their property is always kind of exploring film and television in the game world. You know, you look at like with Control, with the video footage of the Doctor speaking. You look at like Alan Wake American Nightmares, the old like Xbox Live Arcade game, which is also excellent. You kept seeing Mr. Scratch, like the other, on the television screen, and it was like he's the doppelganger, and he's in the screen, and he's talking to Wake, and it would suck me in. I would stand at the TVs in the game and just wait for the scene to play out. But it was minor, it was small, it's like very supplementary. You still kind of have control. Like when you're Jesse Faden in Control and you're listening to, I can't remember the doctor's name, but the scientist, you're listening to him speak, you're able to still walk around the room, manipulate, and that's a cool effect where you maintain control. It still feels like a game, but with kind of live action cinematics and video sort of intruding into the game world. I don't know so far if Quantum Break has struck that balance correctly. I feel like it's very cinematic because you have the cutscenes and this live action sitcom. I'm sure there's more coming. I say sitcom because it's 30 minutes, but it's serious. It's a drama. There's no jokes, there's no laugh track. But I don't know if that balance is right? It feels almost like there's too much TV. It's like the difference between chocolate milk and a chocolate bar somebody pours milk on. It's like one of them is very popular and one of them is not sold in stores. So yeah, I don't know if I'll come back to it. It really depends. If they get it back onto Game Pass in the next, like this year, okay. But who knows how long it's going to take to work out all the licensing stuff. You'd think if it was easy to work out, they would have worked it out before it left the service. So I'm assuming there's some sort of hang up. I really doubt they dropped the ball that poorly, or like, wow, we lost a game that was funded by us. So I'm assuming there's got to be something going on with that license. Moving past what I've been playing, I mentioned earlier the ID at Xbox Twitch stream. Showed a lot of interesting games. The few that stuck out to me, I kind of want to talk about. Just some that I thought were pretty interesting. First one here. Let's see. Let me pull this up for you guys. Here we go. This is the Carters 2, and I've never heard of the Carters 1. But I like kart games. My fiance and I like to play Mario Kart at times. I think everybody does, right? That game has sold like almost 50 million or more copies with just Mario Kart 8. So I think kart racing games are very popular. This one, who knows? It's obviously coming out through ID at Xbox. It looks pretty cool to me though. I like what I see. I like the vibe. I'm hoping that I can get my normal gaming squad interested in this, and maybe this becomes something that goes into rotation. Just a little bit more of like like kick back and sort of laugh and have a good time with the game here. Looks super interesting to me. Obviously not something that's gonna like, I don't think win like a bunch of awards or set critics on fire, but kart racing games can be super popular, and these kind of games, these sort of multiplayer experiences are something I'm always looking for, especially on Xbox, because that's where a lot of my multiplayer game time goes, just because that's where like my friends play. So hopeful for that one. All right. Really, really excited to see that one come out. And then next up we've got, and I know I touched on this last episode. I talked about The Last Case of Benedict Fox. But I want to talk about it again because they went a little deeper into this. All right, they do a kind of a combat breakdown here, and this is what I was trying to show last week, and I couldn't get it out of that trailer because it was just sort of like cinematic and like him walking only. And so this one you're actually getting to see a little bit of like what the combat and like gameplay looks like in The Last Case of Benedict Fox, and this looks really cool to me, even more so, right? As each thing I see about this game, I'm getting more excited. It is Game Pass on the 27th. I'm sure it'll come to Steam as well. I believe it's console exclusive, though I could be wrong. This is something I could obviously see with being multi-plat. Yeah, I should have known that, right? I think this is the second time in a week where I'm like, I didn't look up what platforms it goes to. Guys, this is a show that nobody watches. You got to lower your expectations. But yeah, I'm playing this game probably day one. Depending on what the 27th is that a work day or a weekend? I don't know. But I am very excited to pop this in either that morning or that night, depending on the day. But man, seeing this in action, like this is the kind of game for a 2D, like kind of Metroidvania or like platformer that gets me. I love when they take the kind of a more traditional format, right? Like most kind of big budget games are not done in this style anymore. So when you see indies doing this and doing it with a very modern art style, really kind of pushing the artistic expression of what something like this can be, very exciting. And as you could probably tell from Dredge, I'm not huge on like horror, but I really do like this sort of more Lovecrafty and like cosmic, sort of spooky, this kind of horror gameplay where it's, I don't know, it just got a little more to me like style. I really enjoy that. So, I just realized I thought you could see the mouse move, but you can just see the YouTube icon come up. That's pretty cool. Anyway, yeah, I don't want to show the whole thing. I actually kind of want to jump over to the third one. And this one's like came out of left field for me. I hadn't heard anything about this. Looked very unusual. But I think maybe this one, like kind of this like shot up to the top of my list for me in a way, like where I had no idea what this was. And now I'm very interested, right? This is called The Explorator. I don't know, but this art style. I love it. Look how beautiful this looks. So interesting. And it looks like this great game you just want to explore. I could just see myself like spinning the camera around the character, just like watching this. So, and then this happens. This guy comes out. What is going on? It's a shooter. I'm very excited for this game. Look at this thing. This game looks wild. This looks like a fever dream, and I'm here for it. I love the space that these more independent and smaller games are going. They are taking risks that a lot of times these big budget studios can't take on single player games. They just can't, because like when you look at how much money it costs to make some of this stuff, I don't blame them, right? Not taking risks, not being as sort of odd. But when I do see it in the space like that, I get very excited. I think we are in like a golden age of gaming. When you look at, yes, we're getting the AAA big budget, like cinematic AAA graphics, but we're also getting really cool experiences like this, and really like without their art styles, out their game design. So I saw that stuff. There were several other games there that looked cool. Those are just the three that really sort of like grabbed me by the beard and were like, pay attention to us. But yeah, there's a lot coming out there. I was pretty happy to see those. Like I said, I love seeing those kind of new games like that. Last week I also talked about Meet Your Maker, and I know that was another one that was up in the running to be played here instead of Dredge, but Dredge really hooked me. I'm waiting on Meet Your Maker. I was gonna hop into it, but I just ordered a PC. My trusty laptop has served me well, but it's time to upgrade. So we got a PC coming. Nothing too crazy. It's a 3070. So I'm excited for that. I've never done PCB on the laptop before, like that I've owned. So yeah, getting into the world of that, and I decided I'm gonna wait. Meet Your Maker, it seems like a game that might pop off more on like Steam and just PC. So I'm probably gonna grab it there. We'll see. But excited to kind of talk about that. Most of the Steam games I've played or been playing have been more indie or smaller titles, because it's something my laptop could handle, because I've been using a laptop that's like a 4600H with a 1660, I think, Ti. I mean, just like, not terrible. It runs older games great, and some of the newer, like less demanding games, but it would struggle to run like a AAA game, right? So this is excited to kind of upgrade something that can handle games a little bit longer going forward. So I'm excited for that, and Meet Your Maker will be coming very soon on that. I'm hoping that arrives in the next week or two, so I can get some footage going there before Benedict Fox comes out, which will take over my time when that drops. Enough games though, let's talk game news. Everybody's favorite. Let's kind of just get into what's going on. A few smaller stories I want to touch on before we get into some of the bigger stuff. Joseph Staten is leaving Xbox. So he'd come back to Halo in 2020 after that first kind of like terrible showcase that was like a confidence dropper. They brought Staten back. Joseph Staten was brought in as creative director. He had written like in the original Halos, right? He worked on like the first 3 Halos. And he came back in 2020 to kind of help work with Infinite, right? And kind of get it on a track and kind of help steer some of that. And he left when they were doing all of the some of the resignations came through. There was some downsizing at 343, and Staten had left to go back to like Xbox Studio Publishing, right? So working with things like World's Edge, etc., and like kind of like the third-party deals, I believe, but just sort of like that other arm of it. And now he's moving on from Xbox entirely, which we'll see. Excited to see where he goes next. I think he's got a very unique kind of like style and voice. He's done some obviously great games. He's got a very cool legacy there. So it's gonna be neat to see what he goes and where he goes and what he does next. I don't really think it has much impact on like the state of Infinite. I think like any amount of news that comes out now about Infinite, people kind of take as a negative. But yeah, I think Halo Infinite's where it's at, and like I don't know if anything's gonna change that. But I just thought that was worth checking out, because he'd obviously been a huge part of the Bungie era Halo, and then had come back and really helped Infinite kind of get on the right track. Beyond that, the next 3 things I want to talk about are actually like industry growth, where we're looking at a few companies that are expanding, entering new partnerships, whatever. First one is Konami. They announced Konami Osaka Studio. It's a new production center there in Japan for them, in Osaka, which is going to be housing housing more like dev resources, right? Like they said, like the idea behind this is like creative first, really giving their teams everything they need to do to really make great games. I think Konami kind of fell by the wayside for a number of years where they weren't really kind of the powerhouse they once were. Seems like they're back. They're starting to take things more seriously. We're seeing like the Suikoden remaster. I've heard, there's rumors that there's like a Metal Gear remaster in the works. It looks like they're getting back into it. They've got, I think a lot of things have probably shown them that like there's a lot of money in this still, and they need to take some of their properties seriously. But yeah, that's exciting, right? It's exciting to see them kind of grow. The studio's going to have be fully equipped with motion capture equipment, sound studios, everything necessary to do. It seems like AAA production out of Konami. So excited to see kind of what they're going to do next. We'll go from there, though. The other is Nintendo and mobile firm DNA, launched joint venture Nintendo Systems. This is a new company Nintendo's going to have 80% of. DNA's going to have 20% of. They had worked together in the past. This is a mobile firm where they had done some other things. Like they had been making kind of like the Nintendo, some of the Nintendo mobile games, like Super Mario Run, Fire Emblem, Heroes, that sort of thing. This is interesting, right? I think I've said before, I think Nintendo is gonna have to do something unique going forward. We saw Doug Bowser talking a few weeks ago about him seeing the direction of the industry and of Nintendo being seeing new technologies come into play, allowing them to reach more players. I think there's no way mobile doesn't play some part of that. And I think this is an interesting thing. They actually mentioned in the article about this, they say the technology surrounding the internet is changing at a dizzying pace and increasing in complexity every day. In this context, Nintendo Systems will leverage the relationship of trust between Nintendo and DNA that has been nurtured through a partnership of over 7 years to create new innovations for the world, driven by Nintendo's originality and DINA's knowledge of technology. The development of tech in the entertainment industry is expected to continue to grow. We will continue to take on the challenge of bringing smiles to the faces of as many customers as possible through Nintendo's entertainment by incorporating a diverse range of technologies from the traditional to the cutting edge. And that is from their own website. They put out a statement here. And if you're like me, you have to come up here to translate. And hope it works. And I can never get this to work, and that is why, there it is. That is why I copied it over into my notes before trying to read it here. Look, I think it's pretty interesting stuff here. I initially saw this through a VGC article. But yeah, I think this is cool seeing Nintendo kind of expand out. They don't, Nintendo is not, they don't buy studios to the extent that, like Sony does, or obviously Microsoft, who's like gobbling things up. Nintendo is very much about kind of keeping things in their DNA and making sure it's a really tight fit for like what they do. I think more than any other first party console manufacturers. So it's interesting to see them kind of open up this new company. Obviously, they're retaining majority ownership, but there is a deepening partnership with DNA. I don't know. I think it's DNA, right? But the E throws me off. It's DE, capital N, capital A. I think it's very interesting, this occurring. We'll go from there, right? As far as like, let's see what they roll out. But I think it's going to be exciting stuff to see. To me, it's like, that's like the big question, more than like, is there a pro coming of this or that console, or like, well, what's, as far as hardware is concerned, or like the big sort of platforms, the most interesting question is like, what is Nintendo's next system going to be? We're seeing like all these handhelds come out, Asus, Republic of Gamers has announced the Ally, which is going to be their new gaming piece. Handheld. It's supposed to have a better resolution and more power than the Steam Deck. My question is, though, the Steam Deck is already aggressively priced and it's still high, right? I think the lowest one is like $400, but you're getting, you're getting worse memory, less of it, and you really got to go up to that second level, which I think is it's close to $5, right? And then the top one is like over $6, just over $6, like $620. Those are still expensive for a handheld device, and those are aggressively priced, right? All the other ones we're seeing have had to be fairly expensive because they're not going to make it up in software sales the way Valve does on the Steam Deck or the way console manufacturers do. So I'm interested to see what Nintendo is going to come out with. The big rumor on handheld is that PlayStation is coming out with a handheld. And before you cheer and say, yes, another like PS Vita or PSP, apparently the reporting is it's going to be remote play only, not cloud and not native, remote play. So kind of like a PS5 Wii U, which PU is what I say to that, because why? Like, I don't understand how. First off, the price. Let's talk about the price of this thing. It's going to be remote play only. There's no way it comes in under $300. I don't see how, when they're selling their Pro PS5 controller, the DualSense Edge, they're selling that thing for $200. It doesn't have a screen on it. This is going to have a screen on it. So that's going to be very expensive. Why wouldn't you just use your phone or like a tablet, Wi-Fi'd up to a controller, or using like a backbone controller, which is what I like to use is the backbone. When I remote play onto my phone. And what's nice about that backbone is it's not locked to the PS5. I can use it with the PS5. I can also use it Steam remote. I can use it with my Xbox. And it's only $99, and obviously a phone people already have, or a tablet. And I think that's the issue, right? Casuals are going to use a phone or a tablet because they're not going to drop money, most likely. Enthusiasts tend to prefer native. So while it doesn't really matter, like PlayStation could glue, you know, they could cut a controller in half, glue either side to a friggin' potato. They're going to sell 1 million just to people who just buy hardware when it comes out. I might buy it because I'm one of those assholes. But is it going to catch on it and take off? I mean, the Wii U was a disaster. I understand the wild success of the Nintendo Switch and the popularity, at least among like enthusiasts of the Steam Deck. But I don't understand everyone rushing into handheld and doing just remote play or just cloud. Because to me, the benefit of cloud, when you look at like xCloud or Amazon Luna or what Google tried and failed to do, or even just remote play, the beauty of it is it comes to devices you already own. It's screen agnostic in a way. The beauty of xCloud is not that I have this like special handheld device to play Xbox games. It's that I play my Xbox games on my computer or on my Xbox, and then if I'm at the doctor's office or I'm waiting at the tax office like I had to this month, you just play a game right there over cloud. But if you have to carry an extra device that's big, right? That's like an 8 or 9 inch screen. To me, that kind of kills the idea, especially when it's locked to an ecosystem. If PlayStation is going to lock this to the PS5 only, I think it's DOA as far as like mass adoption. Now, it could be interesting if they're going to price it aggressively and allow you to connect to other services. But again, that doesn't seem like a very PlayStation thing, and you kind of wonder almost like what's the point in that case. So yeah, to me, this is like like a swing and a miss. If they had said it was going to have even just cloud, even if it was going to have cloud, not just remote play, it would be a little more interesting, because it'd be interesting to see like how that works. I like xCloud on the go. And I use xCloud rather than remote play for Xbox, even when I'm home. And while I like PS5 remote play, I'm not going to buy an extra device for it when my phone works perfectly fine. So yeah, that's my thoughts there. I don't know. I'm also not super sold on all these handheld devices and why there need to be so many and everyone's putting them out, and like, is handheld gaming the next thing? I don't know, man. I just think people get excited about hardware, but sometimes I think like that's just enthusiasts. It's not going to make these companies money. It's not going to be something that they stick around to support. Because the thing with like people wanting PlayStation or Xbox to do a handheld is Nintendo had a problem with the Wii U and the 3DS. And part of that problem was their dev resources were split. They were making handheld games, they were making console games. One of the beautiful things of this about the Switch from a development perspective is that it combined those resources. Now they're making games for one device. You can play it on your TV, you can play it handheld, however you want, but everybody's making games into one pipeline. You're not having to feed two devices. For PlayStation or Xbox to do a native handheld device that's going to natively play games, they would have to split their dev resources and have some of their devs working on games that are designed to run on that, right? And maybe they could run on the PS5, but you still want to have, like, you don't want Naughty Dog making a game that's going to run on a Switch, right? You want them pushing, the tech. You want them doing like the best graphics they possibly can. That's one of the strengths of that studio. And then if you're Xbox, you don't want to split your dev resources because you're having trouble putting out content as is. So like feed one beast before you try to feed two, right? PlayStation might be able to do it a little bit better, but they also don't have the studio numbers to do this. So I can't see in a future where cloud is likely growing, and the console sales and that stuff, I think, is only going to heat up, especially as we're seeing Microsoft go all in on subscription services. Very, very likely the deal closes with Activision Blizzard, and we see that go into their service. That is going to force Sony to take subscriptions very seriously and start getting very aggressive on it. And so in that market, I don't see them splitting their dev resources to do a native handheld. And quite honestly, when it comes to cloud, I just don't see. I know people got booed off the stage, or that Blizzard guy got booed off the stage years ago when he said, "Don't you people have phones?" But I'm gonna say it: don't you people have phones or tablets or old laptops or a friggin' TV with a Fire Stick? Like, there's so many ways to stream, the cloud stream a game. To me, it seems very wasteful to have this hardware, and especially to have more of this hardware, because you keep seeing all these competitors jump into this field. I don't know. I don't see it ever getting mass adoption past enthusiasts. I mean, even the Steam Deck, right? We haven't heard numbers since Q4, and that was, I believe, over 1 million, but that's it. And if you go back and look at that original IGN interview Gabe Newell gave with IGN's Ryan McCaffrey, Gabe had said, if we're doing this right, we'll be moving millions of these, right? And I don't think they've hit 2 million, or I feel like they'd probably announce that. That'd probably be a milestone to announce. And when you have that kind of low adoption, to me, I don't know how they're measuring success, but that's not a huge home run where that's going to like really shake things up. And I think these other manufacturers, they're going to have a harder time of it because they're not going to be able to make up on software sales. So like, why pay that much for something? Like, what are you getting? What are you really getting other than something new and shiny? Which I don't know. I say that I'm a hypocrite. I'll probably buy at least one of these things to check it out at some point. But so far I've been resisting all these handhelds apart from the Switch because I have a phone and it's beautiful. It has a beautiful screen. It plays games perfectly. You could hit do not disturb when you're playing it. So everyone who's worried about getting a text, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on these things when they're cloud only, and I don't think there's room for these manufacturers to do a native only and have pipeline on that. So yeah, that was sort of my rant about that. I touched on right at the end, I kind of mentioned the Activision Blizzard deal. I'm trying to put that at the back of this because I feel like enough people talk about it, and I'm sure everyone is like getting pretty sick of hearing about it. I still think it remains a very interesting ass story. PlayStation came out with their response, calling the deal, or calling the CMA's sort of about face, where the CMA basically came out, we talked about last week, and they said, hey, we don't see console foreclosure as a risk here. We don't think there's any risk to competition from Microsoft taking or partially foreclosing Call of Duty on PlayStation, and we don't see them fully removing the title because we think there'd be just way too much money lost for Microsoft to do that. And they're basically saying, hey, we're looking at cloud still. We're kind of concerned around that, but we don't think there's any teeth to the PlayStation argument, essentially. Microsoft obviously came out like, very good CMA, because why wouldn't they? They agreed with the point. They finished it off with basically saying, hey, we don't think you're going to find a problem with cloud either. We've made all these cloud deals, Boostroid, etc. Sony's response was a little bit sharper. They basically said, hey, we think you got it wrong this time. We're very surprised you made this about face. We think you're doing math wrong. We think you're figuring these things out incorrectly. We do think there's a reason they'd maybe foreclose on us. We think, hey, they took away these Bethesda games like Redfall, which I've said before, I don't think it's taking away if it was never launched, right? I think if you look, it's word games, right? It's like marketing buzzwords, but they said we're not going to take away games, not we're going to deliver everything that's like, on a whiteboard, right? Because if you start saying that, it's like, how far into dev was this game? What counts like being in development for PS5? Just it was somebody's thought. It was on a whiteboard. It was written down. It'll be on PS5, what have you. There's too many little circumstances, right? So I think when they say we're not going to take away games, they mean games that are already on the system, right? So things like Fallout 76, Elder Scrolls Online, Deathloop, Ghostwire Tokyo, Skyrim Anniversary Extra Special Super Duper 4K 2023 edition, and the Skyrim edition I'm sure they'll launch next year when they do another update on this thing. But my point is, if it hadn't come, they're not taking it away, right? So I don't really see the Redfall comparison. I think Microsoft was pretty clear that it'd be case by case. They've also made it pretty clear here. Call of Duty's not going anywhere. They're going to treat it like Minecraft, they've said. CMA seems to be buying that. Sony did call the deal irrational, and I saw a lot of journalists and people online making hay with that. Like, Sony's called the CMA's decision irrational. But that's just one of the like things you have to say if you want to try to appeal this decision, right? So the CMA has the rules that it has to be either illegal, irrational, or there has to be like an issue with the methodology of how they went about figuring this out. Those are kind of like, I'm paraphrasing, but those are like the three sort of things you need to have if you want to appeal a decision by the CMA in the UK. So Sony's just, obviously, I don't think you can make the argument it's illegal. It's probably pretty hard to accuse this bureaucracy of not crossing their T's and dotting their I's. So I think they're going with, hey, we think it's irrational, right? They're just reserving the right by putting that in writing now, by putting it out there. They're just sort of signaling and reserving the right to like, hey, we might try to appeal this. Which, yeah, good on their lawyers for putting that in there, right? You always want to leave, why close a door, right, if you can leave it open? So I don't think there's much to be said about that as far as like, oh, it's wild they said that. But I do think it's pretty interesting. But yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to touch on Microsoft and Activision. Couple of small things I do want to touch on, and I'm just gonna pull this up real fast. Give me a second. Hang on. Jason Momoa, what's he doing on the screen? Minecraft books an April 2025 release date, and Jason Momoa is starring in it. How are you gonna make a Minecraft movie? I say that, I'm being critical. It's probably gonna be like the Lego movie or something. It's gonna be a huge hit. Everybody's gonna love it. It's gonna make $1 billion. But to me, it's just like, the time is upon us. It has come. It is upon us. The video game adaptation is hit, right? The Last of Us was a critical darling on HBO. Super Mario Brothers movie is like the biggest animated opening of all time. It just told Frozen 2 to sit down and take a seat. Sit down and take a seat. To take a seat and shut up. Yeah. Napoleon Dynamite's director is making this Minecraft movie. I don't know what else they've done since Napoleon Dynamite, and I don't know if anybody is gonna remember Napoleon Dynamite. Okay, interesting, very interesting. But I think this just proves the floodgates are open. Anything can get made. You're about to see Hollywood just gobble up every freaking video game IP they possibly can. It's about to be Marvel levels of oversaturation. We are about to get so many video game movies and TV shows, we're gonna choke on them. And I don't know, maybe we deserve it. Last thing. Xbox put out this kind of cool controller, and this is like barely news. I just think it's pretty neat. This is made out of recycled parts, the Remix Special Edition, made partly from reclaimed CDs, water jugs, and other controller parts. It comes with a battery pack, one of the rechargeable battery packs, and it retails for $84.99 USD. I did pre-order this because I'm an idiot about controllers. I really like to kind of collect. I don't do a lot of collectibles or like statues or like special editions, but I do like picking up controllers. So yeah, grab this one. That should come in later this month, and I'll probably throw it up on video somehow so you guys can check it out and see what I think of it. I'm very interested to see if there's any differences in it because it's made from reused stuff. But even if there's not, the design is sweet. I mean, I'm a fan of that. So very excited to see that kind of roll out. Just like a cool design. I think Xbox is killing it with the controller designs, like especially the custom stuff, like Design Lab. I'd love to see PlayStation or Nintendo or even one of these like third party, like Apido. I'd love to see them roll out the ability to customize some of these controllers. Like, why not? Why not? What's stopping you? Come on. Let me mess with this a little. Let me design these up. I think it would only increase sales, right? Obviously, you got to work out the manufacturing pipeline and stuff, and people got to wait a little bit longer. But I think it's a cool thing, right? Let me customize it. Let there be custom controllers for all. But yeah, that's about it. It looks like 45 minutes is becoming the new norm for the show. I'm just getting a little more talkative. Maybe it's a little too rambly. If you're watching this later, let me know what you think. If it needs to go back to more of the 30-minute showcase, or you like the extra 15 minutes with the villain randomly rambling. But other than that, that's all we've got for tonight. Happy Easter if you celebrate. And have a good week gaming. I'm out.